Welcome to my May reading wrap-up, and I'll also be revealing the reading challenge theme for June. Starting off, I read 4 books this month. 3 of them were reading challenge books, and just one little audiobook novella that was outside of the reading challenge. So starting off with that one, which was Platform Decay by Martha Wells. I just had to listen to this on audio. I've listened to all of the Murderbot books through audio so far. Kevin R. Free, the narrator, does a fantastic job and really just embodies the character of Murderbot. Sort of to the point where I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to accept Alexander Skarsgård as the physical embodiment of that character in the TV show. I did really enjoy the TV show and I did enjoy his performance, but I also have a place in my heart for Kevin R. Free's portrayal. As always, these stories are just really entertaining and a chance to kind of switch off your brain and just absorb the story. I ended up giving it 4 stars. It's just a really good, solid read and a really good addition to the Murderbot series. We see him going on a mission to rescue the family of one of his friends that he's met in previous stories. And he also gets dragged into rescuing a few other people along the way, including children, so that's a new dynamic for him. And there's a little cameo from Art and 3 as well, so we get some of the characters that we've seen before, but it is mainly Murderbot going on this mystery to try to rescue these people and get them to safety. As I say, it's a solid addition to the Murderbot series, and if there are any more on the way, then I will be very much looking forward to them. Moving on to the reading challenge books that I got through this month. So for May, it was Murder Mystery May. And I started off by reading Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers by Jessie Q. Sutanto. This I basically consumed through the audiobook, narrated by Wong, who was absolutely fantastic. She really just breathed life and personality into each of the characters, but particularly Vera herself. She's just this funny, nosy, quirky grandmother figure, and her personality is just really drove the story and was really entertaining. She wakes up one morning to find the dead body of a man in her tea shop. And yes, the police come and investigate what happens, but she decides that she could probably do a better job on her own. And she actually takes a piece of evidence from the crime scene and decides to do her own investigation. And along the way, a lot of hijinks and hilarity ensues. There's also an element of found family in this, where Vera starts to get to know some of the suspects that show up in her town, and she starts to grow attached to them, and in the end just hopes that actually it wasn't one of them, but she still carries on with the investigation to figure out exactly what happened. And in the end, I gave this a solid 4 stars. The next one I read was The Ending Writes Itself by Evelyn Clarke, which is the pen name for the duo V.E. Schwab and Cat Clarke. I read a little bit of this physically, but I also used the help of the audiobook to get through most of it. The narrator, Fiona Hardingham, was again really, really good. If there's a narrator that's in the slightest bit annoying, I will not listen to it. So yeah, she did a really good job again of just giving different characteristics to all of the characters. You really don't have to struggle to know who's speaking. She gave them all different voices and accents, so it was really easy to listen to. And ultimately, I really think it helped me to get through the story. I ultimately did enjoy the journey, actually listening to this. The characters were all really engaging, and I liked the setting of the authors being taken to the island of a recently deceased author and given the opportunity to compete to finish the ending of his unfinished book. But ultimately, the ending just wasn't satisfying enough for me. It didn't give me what I wanted from a murder mystery where all of the pieces were given to you and then all the threads just came together in the end and it all suddenly made sense. And yeah, I just didn't really enjoy the reveal of the killer, and it just wasn't clever enough for me. It didn't feel like it really made sense, or it wasn't satisfying enough for what I wanted out of this type of classic murder mystery. I've actually seen a play version of Agatha Christie's A Mirror Cracked, and that story in particular just gives you everything that you expect from that type of mystery. It drip feeds you all of the things you need to know throughout it, and then towards the end everything starts to piece together. It all starts to piece together until you, as the audience or the reader if you are reading the book, suddenly have your own revelation as everything starts to make sense. I remember sitting there in the theatre, and once you get that key nugget of information, I was sat there inhaling, realizing, oh my goodness, that's what happened, and that's what then led to all of the subsequent events that led to the deaths in this story. And it was so satisfying, and unfortunately that's what I was missing from this. So as much as I love V.E. Schwab, this really didn't hit for me, and I only gave this 3.25 stars. The last book I completed, and certainly my most enjoyable read this month, was The Tainted Cup, represented here again by A Drop of Corruption. I couldn't get the physical copy from the library, only the second one, but actually I enjoyed the first one so much that I really do want to dive into this one at some point very, very soon. I gave The Tainted Cup by Robert Jackson Bennett 4.25 stars. It was really, really enjoyable, and this actually had a satisfying conclusion at the end. And also just that classic, the investigator brings everyone together into one room and reveals everything and starts to piece together everything that we've learned throughout the story and just makes sense of it all. This is very much a Sherlock and Holmes style mystery, but just set in a fantasy world where these giant leviathans are threatening to breach the sea wall and destroy their civilization. So not only did you have that underlying threat going on, but then you had the murder mystery to solve, and the murders themselves, the way that they died, are very interesting, a little bit graphic, very fantasy coded, and just trying to figure out how they died and why it's all is very compelling, and there's lots of threads to try to weave together, but it does all come together in the end in a satisfying way. And speaking of Sherlock Holmes, this even echoes the way that those books were told through the perspective of Dr. Watson. So this is a first-person narrative told by Din, who is our Watson character, the assistant to the lead investigator, Anna, who is our Sherlock Holmes character. And they do very much have the same dynamic where Anna is just very eccentric and very intelligent and is always 2 steps ahead of everyone else. But Din is intelligent and skilled in his own way and is a worthy assistant to Anna. Ultimately, this had a very satisfying conclusion, and I am definitely going to pick the second one up. Now on to the June Reading Challenge theme. This month I have titled it Junior June, and I am going to be reading YA novels. There are quite a few that actually fall into this category that I just haven't got to yet, and so this is definitely my excuse to get through some of these. As usual, I think I have been overly ambitious with my list of potentials, and I know I won't get through them all, but let's showcase them anyway and see what I've got to choose from. Starting off with The Honeys by Ryan Sala. I have actually already started this one. I was able to get the audiobook off of Libby, so I have started the first few chapters and it's already a very good read. I wasn't sure if I was going to go for this immediately, but listening to the preview of just that first chapter, I was hooked. So I thought, yeah, I will get the audiobook and let's start this. Audiobooks are definitely a way to help me get through some reading. It's very easy to put on an audiobook when I'm trying to get chores done around the house and things like that. So as much as I enjoy physical reading, audiobooks are definitely a good way of making good progress. Mars and his sister Caroline were once inseparable. When she dies in horrific circumstances, Mars is overcome with grief. Once excluded from the prestigious Aspen Summer Academy due to his gender fluidity, Mars insists on attending this year in her place. Mars is drawn to her old friends, a group of girls dubbed the Honeys. They are beautiful and terrifying, and Mars is certain they're connected to Caroline's death. Soon, the sweet mountain breezes at Aspen give way to hints of decay. Mars's memories begin to falter, and something is hunting him in broad daylight, toying with his mind. If Mars can't find it soon, it will eat him alive. Get through this one and I'll let you know at the end of the month how I got on. I have a lot of duologies in this lineup, starting with a magic steeped in poison and a venom dark and sweet. by Judy Lin. And just look how stunning these covers are. They are so beautiful. I won't necessarily get to the second one. I would like to at least read the first one in all of these, but if I at least have the second one ready to go, if it is so compelling and it hooks me, then I've got the next one and I can just finish them both up. For Ning, the only thing worse than losing her mother is knowing that it's her own fault. She was the one who unknowingly brewed the poison tea that killed her, the poison tea that now threatens to also take her sister, Shu. When Ning hears of a competition to find the kingdom's greatest Shenongshi, masters of the ancient and magical art of tea-making, she travels to the imperial city to compete. The winner will receive a favour from the princess, which may be Ning's only chance to save her sister's life. But between the backstabbing competitors, bloody court politics, and a mysterious and handsome boy with a shocking secret, Ning's life might actually be the one in more danger. I've had this one on my radar and in my physical TBR for a while now, so let's see if I actually get around to it. The next duology I have is by Reid, A Study in Drowning and a Theory of Dreaming. And look at these stunning editions. Truly some of the most beautiful books that I own. Oh, I love them so much. I'm sure most people watching this are no stranger to these books, but let's read the blurb anyway. Effie Sayre has always believed in fairy tales. Even though, crumbling under the pressure of her first term at college, she can't always seem to tell the difference between fact and fiction. Her only solace has been Angharad, an epic from Lyrian national hero and author Emrys Myrddin. Taken by chance, and maybe fate, to the late author's estate, she is intent on finding the purpose to her own story, but instead stumbles upon Preston Hillary, a scholar from the Literature College. Preston has come to Hereth Manor, determined to prove Effie's favourite author is a fraud, and her only hope of proving him wrong is to conspire with him. But Hereth, perched on the very edge of a wrathful ocean, holds dark secrets, the likes of which both Effie and Preston thought only existed in the pages of Myrddin's stories. The house and the truth might just ruin them both, as the sea threatens to swallow it, them, and all their stories whole. Let's take a moment to appreciate the rest of this stunning edition. Very similar end pages and hardcover design. This is definitely a priority for me. I have been meaning to pick this up for the longest time. So hopefully I do actually enjoy it, and these two beautiful editions can take pride and place on my shelves. Next up, another duology I have been dying to read, and an author that I've been meaning to pick up for the longest time and haven't yet. Divine Rivals and Ruthless Vows by Rebecca Ross. I'm sure most of you in the fantasy space are well aware of this book, but let's see what it says. After centuries of sleep, the gods are warring again, but 18-year-old Iris Winnow just wants to hold her family together. Her mother is suffering from addiction and her brother is missing from the front lines. Her best bet is to win the columnist promotion to the Oath Gazette. To combat her worries, Iris writes letters to her brother and slips them beneath her wardrobe door, where they vanish into the hands of Roman Kit, her cold and handsome rival at the paper. When he anonymously writes Iris back, the two of them forge a connection that will follow Iris all the way to the front lines of battle for her brother, the fate of mankind, and love. Sounds very You've Got Mail, but YA and set in a fantasy world full of gods and goddesses. I have heard so many great things about Rebecca Ross's writing, and I have been dying to just read all of her books, so I am really hoping that her writing style resonates with me and that I can just eat up everything that she's written. The next one I have is not a duology, but there are other books in the series, starting with Little Thieves by Margaret Owen. I believe this is a fairy tale or fairy tale retelling. One that's been on my radar for a few years now, and I've just heard so many great things about it. Once upon a time, there was a horrible girl. Vanya Schmidt knows that no gift is freely given, not even a mother's love. And she's on the hook for one hell of a debt. Vanya, the adopted goddaughter of Death and Fortune, was Princess Giselle's dutiful servant up until a year ago. That was when Vanya's otherworldly mothers demanded a terrible price for their care, and Vanya decided to steal her future back by stealing Giselle's life for herself. The real Giselle is left a penniless nobody, while Vanya uses an enchanted string of pearls to take her place. Now Vanya leads a lonely but lucrative double life as princess and jewel thief, charming nobility while emptying their coffers to fund her great escape. Then, one heist away from freedom, Vanya crosses the wrong god and is cursed to an untimely end, turning into jewels stone by stone for her greed. Vanya has just 2 weeks to figure out how to break her curse and make her getaway. And with a feral guardian half-god, Giselle's sinister fiancé, and an over-eager junior detective on Vanya's tail, she'll have to pull the biggest grift yet to save her own life. Well, that was certainly more involved than I thought it was going to be. Sounds intriguing. Another duology that I have heard amazing things about is Dark Rise by C.S. Pacat. And then, if I enjoy this one, I should be able to get my hands on Dark Air. Saying this now, I'm not actually sure if this is a duology or if it's just that there's 2 books out in the series so far. There may be a third, but I'm actually not 100%. But I've heard so many wonderful things about this series. The ancient world of magic is no more. Its heroes are dead, its halls are in ruins, and its great battles between light and dark are forgotten. Only the stewards remember, and they keep their centuries-long vigil, sworn to protect humanity if the Dark King ever returns. 16-year-old dock boy Will is on the run, pursued by the men who killed his mother. When an old servant tells him of his destiny to fight beside the stewards, Will is ushered into a world of magic where he must train to play a vital role in the oncoming war against the dark. As London is threatened by the Dark King's return, the reborn heroes and villains of a long-forgotten war begin to draw battle lines. But as the young descendants of light and dark step into their destined roles, old allegiances, old enmities, and old flames are awakened. Will must stand with the last heroes of the light to prevent the dark fate that destroyed their world from returning to destroy his own. Sounds like it could be pretty adventurous. The dark will rise. Who will fall? Who will stand? And lastly, in my overly ambitious TBR, the start of another duology, Bonesmith by Nicki Preto. Again, when this first came out, I heard so many good things about it. So I have been meaning to pick this up for a little while. And even though it is YA, I think it's a story about death and necromancers. That's definitely something that I can get into. Again, more stunning cover art. I'm very intrigued to find out who this character is. In the Dominions, the dead linger, violent and unpredictable, unless a bonesmith severs the ghosts from their earthly remains. For Bonesmith Wren, becoming a Valkyrie, a ghost-fighting warrior, is a chance to solidify her place in the noble House of Bone and impress her frequently absent father. But when sabotage causes Wren to fail her qualifying trial, she is banished to the border wall, the last line of defense against a wasteland called the Breach, where the vicious dead roam unchecked. Determined to claim her family's respect, Ren gets her chance when a House of Gold prince is kidnapped and taken beyond the wall. To prove she has what it takes to be a Valkyrie, Ren vows to cross the breach and rescue the prince. But to do so, she's forced into an uneasy alliance with one of the kidnappers, a fierce ironsmith called Julian, from the exiled House of Iron, the very people who caused the breach in the first place, and the House of Bones' sworn enemy. As they travel, Ren and Julian spend as much time fighting each other as they do the undead, but when they discover there's more behind the kidnapping than either of them knew, they'll need to work together to combat the real danger, a dark alliance that is brewing between the living and the undead. Definitely, it sounds like it could be good. I know I'm not going to get through all of these this month, but I certainly have a lot of interesting stories to choose from. As always, I hope you'll join me in this reading challenge. Maybe there's some of these titles that you've been meaning to read for a while like I have, and this is your excuse to do so. Maybe you don't read YA very much, and this is a chance to explore something different. Expand your horizons, maybe. Whatever you choose to read this month, I hope you find your next best read, and I will do my best to get through what I can and report back at the end of the month. Take care, see you again soon, and happy reading.